Hello and welcome to our program Violence Free World. My name is Kali Ikpe and I'm excited because I've got a special guest in the house. His name is Dr. Hakeem Baba-Ahmed. He is the Director of Publicity, Northern Elders Forum. Doctor, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much and thank you for inviting me.
We're going to be diving straight into our conversation, but after this special report, be here. Before the 2015 elections, insecurity had become palpable in Nigeria, not only in the directly affected areas, but across the country. People believed that a different approach, especially by a former army general, might just be the solution to the lingering insecurity. Most people believe that insecurity more than anything else was responsible for President Jonathan losing the election, and why Muhammadu Buhari, a retired army general and former head of state, was elected in his stead. Nigerians must have recalled how General Buhari decisively handled the 1982 Chadian incursion into Nigeria while holding sway as General Officer commanding 2nd Division of the Nigerian Army. This may have resulted in the people trusting in his ability to decisively handle any security matter. Since coming to office, however, several measures have been taken by the Buhari regime to secure Nigerians and decisively tackle the security challenges. These measures include, but are not limited to, the relocation of the Armed Forces Operational Headquarters to the Theatre of War in Baga, Borno State, legislative waivers to speedily procure armament, most notably the $1 billion attack helicopter procurement deal with the U.S. government. 7 years on from the election of President Buhari, the Global Terrorism Index still ranks Nigeria as one of the most terrorized nations in the world. It, however, maintains that Boko Haram attack incidents dropped to only 64 in 2021, just as casualty figures have reduced drastically. While there can be no denying the fact that much has been done to curb insecurity by this administration, the unrelenting incidents of attacks by bandits, terrorists and insurgents seem to undermine the capacity of the government to end the reign of terror. There is a seeming loss of faith by the Nigerian people in the ability of the authorities to stem the tide of violence in the country. This is perhaps the reason why some prominent citizens are beginning to lend their voices to the clamor for alternative solutions. Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State and Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State have recently advocated for the hiring of mercenaries. And some days ago, Chief Afe Babalola called for the installation of an interim government to tackle the issue of security at the expiration of the Buhari presidency, rather than conduct the 2023 elections. In the related development, the Northern Elders Forum, a think tank of eminent Nigerian citizens of Northern extraction, recently called for the resignation of President Muhammadu Buhari if he feels overwhelmed by the security situation in the country. There is no doubt in our minds that someday, somehow, banditry, insurgency and all forms of terrorist activities would be things of the past as we crave a violence-free Nigeria. Welcome back. This is Violence Free World. Doctor, let's go straight into the issues now. The worsening state of insecurity in Nigeria is blamed by many on a perceived lack of political will to deal with the situation. Otherwise, some persons often will tell you that when the powers that be want this situation to end, it ends now. They know what to do. There's a corroborating statement by one other person, but I'm going to get to that afterward. I'd like you to respond to this. Do you share in this position?
Yes, certainly. It makes sense. Usually, security challenges grow and develop because those with responsibilities for dealing with them either ignore them or don't understand them, or just simply fail to act on time. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a problem that goes beyond a few weeks, no matter how complicated it is. Virtually all the problems we've had in this country have had a pattern. They develop usually because somebody has messed up, or somebody has taken their eyes off the ball, and phenomenon has happened, an incident has happened, some social changes are happening and you're not paying attention. And we're not particularly a thinking nation. Unfortunately, we've had a military regime for a long time. The civilian governments that took over from them didn't inherit the thinking element of the military. Even the military had run its course. And that's why it needed to hand over to civilians in 1999. So the thinking is very important. The capacity to identify a problem quickly is very important. The capacity to deploy what is needed, and not necessarily force, not necessarily violence. If you understand the problem, you will understand the nature of the solution you need to deploy there. So all these things contribute to support the argument you've made that usually, in most instances, problems arise, crises occur because people just simply, leaders don't have the capacity to understand or the political will to deploy the right solution at the right time, at the right point, or they believe that it's not their responsibility.
Closely related to this, it's impunity. I mean, that's when people who had been fingered, who had been linked to these issues, and don't seem to be getting the desired kind of punishment, the deserved punishment. And then again, intelligence come forth, where sometimes it is indicated that something like this is there's an impending attack, it is ignored. And Erufai said recently that they know where these people are, and yet you're not getting there. That's the situation, that's the feeling generally. And a lot of people, normal people, are at a loss as to how this. I know maybe that's not your beat in somebody as a concerned citizen. I don't know how much this worries you stay. Is it related to the political will issue?
First of all, it's important to understand security is not every man's job.
Is that everybody's job?
It's not every man's job.
Okay.
It's not everybody's job.
It's contrary to the popular thing that it's everybody's business.
Well, it's everybody's business, but
Yes.
not everybody's job.
Okay.
There are two different things.
All right.
We all can contribute to making our country more secure.
Okay.
However, it's not for everybody to get actively involved in dealing with security matters. And there's a difference between that. You saw the National Security Advisor yesterday criticize the governor of Kaduna State for saying, in most instances, they know where these bandits are, but they don't act. And he says, there you go. It's statements like this that tell the bandits and the kidnappers that we know where they are, and you're not helping. When people say things like, everybody should be armed, defend yourself. General Danjuma, the governor of Katsina State, a few other people said, the solution to this is, look, these were just citizens like us a few months ago. The bandits, the kidnappers, the cultists, the IPOP people. They carry guns. We can also get these guns. They can't keep us at home every Monday and destroy our economy and destroy our lives. We can also fight. So let everybody arm himself. These are, when you see rhetorics and talks like this, it tells you that there's something fundamentally wrong. The first, those who with responsibility to actually secure everybody are failing in their jobs, and therefore creating the space for all this kind of talk that suggests that everybody should adopt a do-it-yourself defense strategy. That is very dangerous. No nation survives when you just push citizens to a point where you say, you are now on your own. Secondly, it's important to understand that those with responsibility to protect us need to be one step ahead of the criminal. If you're not one step ahead of the criminal, the population loses faith in you. They think you don't care, or if you do care, there's nothing you can do about it, and therefore they are entirely on their own. The next stage to that is that people begin to protect themselves. most of the problems that we've had, community-related problems in north central of Nigeria, some parts of the northwest, have arisen because communities have bought guns, have bought manufactured crude weapons, because they expect that their neighbors or some enemy will attack them the next day. And virtually every community is armed. Everybody knows this. Otherwise, how do you explain the fact that one community will attack another one and 10, 20, 30, 60 people will
Maybe
fail?
we're just living in denial, probably getting increasingly comfortable with this base of things. I'll come back to that shortly after this time on. Well, this is Violence Free World. I'll be right back after this time on. Please be here. Welcome back. This is Violence Free World. I'm still here with my guest, Dr. Hakeem Baba-Ahmed. Doctor, going forward now, the late head of state, General Sani Abacha, is reported to have once said that once terrorism, insurgency persists for more than 24 hours or 48 hours, the government has knowledge of it, or probably
A hand in
a hand in it. So this lends credence to the thinking that there's some sort of official complicity by people in government, in authority, to make sure that this thing. But do you think that makes sense? Does that line of thinking make sense to you?
This popular statement made by General Sani Abacha has become famous. I think its value is not so much whether it lies in not so much whether it is true or not, but in the fact that it says when you have a problem that is growing, ask who is in charge. Ask who is in charge of solving that problem. If they are weak, that problem will continue to grow. The state must never give room to problems that continue to grow. And they are your watch. Nobody leads and tolerates or allows problems to grow. I'll give you a very small example. I think in 1996, there was a change of government. I was secretary to government in Kaduna State. And the new governor then, he's still in this particular government, now a civilian, I was receiving a report about a very prominent cleric who was causing a lot of problems, a lot, in our hometown in Zaria. And we spoke, the two of us. He says, do you know this chap? I said, yeah, we grew up with him. We know him. He's a big problem here. And he says, we can't tolerate him. I'm going to go to the president, to this head of state. That's what Abacha used to be called. And I'm going to get his approval and detain this man under D2, Decree 2. At that time, Decree 2 allowed the state to detain anybody. So we came to Abuja and we went to see President Abacha, and he said, sir, I've come to report a man who has been causing huge problems in Kaduna State before I got there. But it's reached a point where we really have to do something about it. He said, so where's your form for D2? You want him detained. Did you fill the form? We hadn't filled the form because we thought we needed his approval. And he said, well, you're wasting your time. If you, as the chief security officer in the state, believe that this man is such a threat, why did you come prepared? Go and get D2. So we went out. By the evening of the same day, we had got our D2, filled it up, brought it back, got his approval. 2 days after that, this man was on his way to Calabar. And he was detained for 2 years under the military, under Decree number 2. And you never heard of him or his people for those 2 years, all the way up to the time Abacha died. You never heard of him. Metasine, how long did he last? He caused havoc in Kano. In the end, the military chased him and the police chased him and finished him. On the other hand, look at the ineptitude. And Muhammad Yusuf, who was the founder or the inspiration or the spiritual head of Boko Haram, was arrested alive, interrogated for 2 or 3 days by the military in Maiduguri, when Maiduguri had become ungovernable. President Erdogan had given the order to shoot at sight. The military arrested him, interrogated him, recorded him, and handed him over to the police, who promptly just shot him. He wasn't prosecuted. How many people have you had prosecuted for Boko Haram offenses since the year 2009 or 2010? How many? How many bandits have been prosecuted?
And even if they're prosecuted, what becomes of it?
Exactly. How many? We don't have a system that arrests and prosecutes people. So the question to ask here is, what do we do with all these bandits and kidnappers and insurgents and IPO people who are killing police by the day? What do we do if we do arrest them? What's their responsibility? This is one of the reasons why countries are refusing to sell weapons to us. They ask us questions. You arrest people, what do you do with them? We know what happens. And they believe that we are operating below what they consider as the acceptable threshold for human rights and appropriate conduct during war or during conflicts. So you have to ask yourself, how many IPOP people, just a few days ago, they killed some policemen. They burnt down a police station. 4 or 5 days ago, how many people have been arrested? How many people have been arrested or asked to account or anything at all after the kidnap on the train between Kaduna and Abuja? This is a government that does not believe in holding people to account. Look how long it took to persuade President Buhari to remove the former service chiefs. And look how he treated them. He elevated them to higher positions. Now, so yes, people tend to refer to the General Abacha statement that if a problem persists beyond 2 days or 7 days, government has a hand in it. And I think what he means here is the government is either unwilling or unable or indifferent to that problem.
Well, that corroborates more of the political will than what we're talking about. If you've got the political will to deal with the situation, you really would if you want to. Otherwise, all of these things speaks for itself, and it's very unfortunate. Now, going forward, I look at prominent sons and daughters of Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria particularly, seem like the epicenter of violence in Nigeria, aside from what's the insurgency going on in northeast. As for banditry, those who are now called terrorists, who've now reluctantly been branded terrorists, I must say, all of these targets of everything in Kaduna, some will tell you is to make a statement to the government that we can hit you where we want to hit you. We got you where we want. All of that. And I'm wonderful, you who live residents of Kaduna State, how does this make you feel? What situation does it put you in, particularly?
It puts us in a terrible situation because Kaduna is now Kaduna and Niger State, Katsina, parts of Zamfara. This is the epicenter of this whole thing. Whether it has to do with what our governor says or doesn't say, how he says it or how he doesn't say it. The truth about it is that the issue of this bandit issue started as fathers clashes in a particular local government in Bindingwari. It wasn't handled well. It ballooned into a bigger issue of rustling large numbers of cattle of Fulani, not Fulani cattle, rustling cattle, but rustling cattle, Fulani to Fulani. Then you uproot, you wrestle the cattle of the Fulani, you literally uproot him from the entire ecosystem of existence. That's all he has. That's all. And when you take away his cattle, life is meaningless. They move to the bush, they move to the forest. Maybe they get enough money from one cow and buy an AK-47. The country is awash with AK-47. Everybody, every criminal you see now is carrying an AK-47. Then they get more and more aggrieved Fulani who are being chased. They can't go to markets, they can't go to farms, they can't herd because they have no cattle. They become criminals. Drug is available to make those who are afraid not afraid anymore. So much money is being made, and this is the point. When you have a crime that is making so much money from that crime, you are in very serious danger because you are actually running parallel governments. They can buy more AK-47s from money that they get from banditry, from kidnapping, from oil bunkering, from terrorist activities in the Southeast than the government can get from legitimate means. And what do they stand to lose? Their lives? What does the government have to lose? A country. And that's where we are. There's so much money in the hands of criminals that they can buy anything they want. If they can buy something and shoot an aeroplane from the flag, you know we're in trouble. If indeed the insinuation is being made that bandits and kidnappers and Ansaru in the north central and the northwest are merging into one, then the country is in very serious trouble.
Well, Dr. Ahmed, I think this is a very good point to ask you to give a word of advice to young people who are beginning to feel that there's a lot of money to be made from the actual violence, because they actually see those who are not getting involved in it suffer, while those who do get big ransoms and they get a lot of money and they're living their life. What's your word of advice to these regular, normal people trying to make up their minds right now?
Thank you very much. That's an excellent question. I always like to say something to young people. Young Nigerians are under a lot of frustrations, a lot more frustration than we've ever been in our lives. And we understand some of it. We saw some of it. If this government had read the NSAS protest properly, they would have seen some evidence of genuine anger among young Nigerians who believe that they've lost the country, and the country has lost them. But they should never lose hope. First of all, there's nothing you can do. If you are 17 to 25, you can live to be 55 or 70. Your country can be fixed. You can live here. If you take to the life of crime, if you are 17, you may last for just 2 years. A politician can use you, a criminal can use you, and you will die young, frustrated, and empty. So avoid crime. Avoid violence. Work hard. Be honest. A lot of young people think if you say to them, be honest, they think, yeah, mumu. Everybody is cheating, so why? Be honest. Because ultimately, you will find the value of honesty serious. Have faith in us. We're not all useless people. We haven't eaten all of Nigeria and we left only the bones for you. Some of us are still trying to talk and work and see if we can rebuild this country. And by the grace of God, we will do that. The final point, those who think the only life is outside Nigeria are making a terrible mistake. Millions of Nigerians, young Nigerians believe going to Canada, going to UK, going to Italy is the way out. It is not. Those countries they are going to, they spent decades or centuries building their country. When you go there, you wash plates, or you wash dead bodies, or you sweep the streets with your degree. They look down on you because they know you've run away from your country and you're coming to enjoy what they labor to produce. Going to Canada is not a solution for Nigerian youth. This is your country. Stay here, work hard, build it, and make sure you elect good leaders. Don't allow a politician to break your head. Break his ambition to destroy you by voting in good people.
Dr. Ahmed, at this point, I'd like to thank you very much for finding time to oblige us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to your program.
Now, I was speaking with Dr. Hakeem Baba-Ahmed, and the conversation will continue by the next episode of the program. My name is Ikpe. This has been Violence-Free World. Please remember to remain on the road to a violence-free Nigeria. I'll see you by the next episode.